Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. We're taking the High Elves today, going to be fighting up against the Vampire Counts. I haven't talked too much about the Vampire Counts in Mortal Empires. I was never a really big Vampire Counts player previously in Total War Warhammer 1. I played them occasionally. They're definitely a strong faction, traditionally. However, just was never a huge fan, and they've taken some hits in this new game here in Mortal Empires. They're definitely not as strong as they used to be. They certainly have more matchups that are less than favorable, I would say. The prevalence of dragons, and of course with the lizardmen, dinosaurs, other large monsters, especially regenerating large monsters, has really harmed the vampires. In many respects, they're just not as good as they used to be, and their lack of range units it makes it really hard for them to deal with large monsters. That's how most factions will deal with other dragons. I mean, they can go one-on-one in certain situations. Terrorgheists are certainly a strong unit, and the zombie dragon, of course, as well, is very strong. The Red Duke is certainly one of the best duelists in the game, especially on this dragon. But it's just going to be tough. They're going to have a hard time. So let's go ahead and take a look at my build here. We've got a Prince up on a Sun Dragon here. Does some really nice fire damage. Of course, flaming attacks is good against anything that has a regeneration. So if I get into melee with, say, a Terrorgheist, a Strigoi Ghoul King, a Mortis Engine, so on, it's going to be very good. Do some extra damage there. Heavy armor piercing. We've also got this Blade of Bel Caradris, just to make him a better duelist in case he gets caught out by, say, the Red Duke. So good thing I brought that. Front line here is a mix of Spearmen and Phoenix Guard. Spearmen are a nice defensive unit that will best all skeletons for the most part. They'll definitely get beat down by Grave Guard, but they'll definitely hold out for a long time. Their 50 melee defense is going to be very superior to, most of the units that the Vampire Counts can field. Across the board, Vampire Counts units tend to have very poor melee attack. Skeleton Spearmen, for example, only have 14 melee attack, which is complete garbage. These Skeleton Warriors here, who've been buffed up a bit, are still only 19 melee attack, so they're going to have a really hard time making solid contact with High Elf Spearmen. Very good defensive unit. Phoenix Guard as well, of course, creme de la creme of elite tier halberd infantry. They cause fear, got that excellent physical resistance, martial mastery, lots of stuff to like about them. They're very good against crypt horrors, other large monstrous vampire units, so going to be very good here. And of course they'll beat down on Graveguard and pretty much everything the Vampire Counts have. So their main weakness is that they're relatively slow, only being infantry, but you can mitigate that somewhat. Lothar and Seaguard are also a very nice pick here, so I brought two of them. They've got their spears for anti-large, and of course bows to deal damage to low armor targets. We've got two units of Dragon Princes as well. These guys will lose to Blood Knights one-on-one. They're very cost-effective. Their physical resistance and fire resistance isn't necessarily pertinent here, but martial mastery and 110 armor. These guys hit very hard. They're among the best cavalry in the game, so definitely a strong unit in any situation. And we've also got Lore of Life for some healing, and that's about it. For my opponent, you've already seen the Terrorgheist and the Red Duke here. The front line is Skeleton Spearman with some zombies. He's also got a Mortis Engine backed up by Crypt Horrors, a Corpse Cart, which, I've never been a fan of the Corpse Cart because this thing is just garbage slow. You can see it only has 23 speed, and it's like as slow as zombies, and it really has a hard time getting into the fight. Really gets targeted by artillery, ranged units, pretty much anything. It's also very squishy. It has relatively low hit points at only 3,000. And, not a lot of armor. It's a good support unit, but it really is going to have a hard time surviving enough time to really pay for itself. But interesting. We've got Cairn Wraiths as well as the Sternsmen for an anchor in the rear. We've also got two units of Fellbats, so my opponent going very heavy on the Air Force. So it's going to be a tough time for me. I'm definitely going to have to take my dragon onto an engagement in the ground, or else have to kite away from the Red Duke and this Terrorgheist for an extended duration, which, is not exactly what I want. I need this dragon to be able to deal damage to, some of his infantry. The Cairn Wraiths I don't really have a solid answer for. I don't have any magic damage per se, so that's going to be tough to deal with. Granted, Cairn Wraiths have garbage stats at 29 and 29 attack, 25 defense, which for a unit of this price is really bad. Granted, they have heavy armor piercing weapon strength, of course being ethereal, have 75% physical resistance, and fear and terror. But, you know, I've heard about ethereal units being very good against the high elves and the dark elves, and I can see some merit to that. But I haven't tested a lot myself, so I'm interested to see how they do here. We're missing a charge by the Dragon Princes into these Cairn Wraiths. That's one of the ways you can deal a lot of damage to them, is through shock damage on a charge. You can see they have taken not an extensive amount of damage, but, you know, we're whittling them away. All we can do is good, but we have felled a few unit models here for these Crypt Horrors. Going to be cycling out with this unit and cycling in with the other unit of Dragon Princes, just trying to keep these Crypt Horrors at low leadership, possibly force them into crumbling, which they are now. And if we can get these Cairn Wraiths to crumble as well, that's the most effective way to take them out if you lack magic damage. We've been able to kind of break up my opponent's formation as he approaches, so he's going to engage a bit piecemeal here, and these Crypt Horrors are going to get absolutely shredded. That Flame Breath from the dragon actually clipped a few of those bats, killed quite a few of them, and did some major damage to the Mortis Engine. I'm going to bring my dragon down right on top of the Mortis Engine and just deal massive damage to him immediately and just take this thing off the battlefield. So that's a huge investment by my opponent, and a big center of his killing power just gone immediately. It hasn't affected the balance of power too much, but losing something that important early on is definitely going to be devastating. This unit of Crypt Horrors as well is already sent into crumbling. His other unit of Crypt Horrors is down, and so we've pretty much already negated most of the killing power of his army. Of course, he still has this Terrorgheist, which I'm failing to micro my Dragon Princes over here and paying the price to the Terrorgheist. But over here, this Red Duke up on his dragon is definitely doing a good job hunting down my Lore of Life Mage, trying to keep me from getting too much value healing. But because he's so far separated from the Terrorgheist, I don't mind taking this engagement one-on-one here, especially with him being on the ground. Then I can come support with Phoenix Guard. So you can see I've dispatched this unit to come over and support this dragon engagement here. And I wonder if there's matched combat animations for the zombie dragon. It would be cool if there was, but somehow I doubt it. You can see my opponent charging over here, but the issue is anywhere that this zombie dragon lands is going to be armor, not necessarily armor piercing, but anti-large. I mean, all of my infantry, even the Lothern Sea Guard, have anti-large, so it's just going to be a bad time for the Red Duke no matter where he goes. The only really favorable engagement for him to take is to have him and the Red Duke and the Terrorgheist just goon my prince up in the air, but I'm just keeping my prince on units that are on the ground, keeping him saturated in these anti-large troops to protect him from these foul undead flying creatures here. But the Stearnsmen over here are a very durable unit, but they're going to take a very nasty charge here, being pinned down by one unit of Dragon Princes and just getting sandwiched by the other ones. Absolutely devastating. And although they're a very durable unit with regeneration, 90 armor, and decent melee defense at 51, which is very good for a Vampire Counts unit, they're definitely going to take a ton of shock damage here, and yeah, I'm surprised they're not crumbling. Stearnsmen, it's a testament to their leadership. Most units would be crumbling quite badly right now, especially because Vampire Counts units generally have poor morale. But Stearnsmen actually holding for a surprising amount of time there, but they, make no mistake, they're definitely going to get crushed. They just can't deal damage back to the Dragon Princes fast enough. You can see the Sun Dragon in here, saturated in on these Cairn Wraiths, trying to get them to rout. They're so far holding up very, very well. I'm having a hard time getting my Lothern Sea Guard free, and I should be targeting this Corpse Cart, but at the same time, I've got this Terrorgheist in my backlines, and the Zombie Dragon as well is still terrorizing my mage back here. And if I were to break away with my Sun Dragon to go chase here, he'd be able to break away with his Terrorgheist, and it's just going to be bad. It may get to the point where I do need to go, but it looks like he's going to let my Lore of Life Mage go, which is good. She's going to come back from routing eventually, and I'll be able to cast some more heals, which is going to come in clutch in the late game. Still, definitely some chance for the Vampire Counts. These Cairn Wraiths are doing a good job of dealing damage. Of course, the Corpse Cart has the Vigor Mortis effect, which gives them a little bonus to their melee attack. So they'll be making a bit better contact here. And you can see my opponent thinking about engaging here, but decides to use the breath instead. That's a very good play. Does some really nice damage to the prince, and all of a sudden the tables have somewhat been turned. I am in a really bad situation with my prince. He's even though he's on the ground, he's still getting ganged up on by this Terrorgheist and this Red Duke. So I'm going to immediately dispatch both my units of Phoenix Guard and just try and force past them in here. I'm also bringing in some Dragon Princes and this unit of Spearmen to try and block up this other side. The Red Duke does manage to escape the situation, but the Prince has taken a lot of damage, and the Terrorgheist is in here also. So it's dangerous. We'll hopefully be able to take out the Terrorgheist, but the Prince could potentially fall here if the Red Duke comes back and gets really nice charge back in this way. Yep, looks like he's going to do that. And oh man, let's see if he's able to make some good contact. Decent bit of damage there coming down on the Prince, but he's going to be able to survive that somewhat. The Terrorgheist is getting attacked in the rear, and now we've got those Phoenix Guard saturated in behind it, you can see, and they're definitely going to be doing some really nice damage. Terrorgeist is probably going to be sent into crumbling, but unfortunately my Sun Dragon rather, took a ton of damage and barely squeaked away with its life. The Red Duke is going to come up and give chase, which is very good play. Definitely needs to try and either kill or see my general off the field. But thankfully for me, the Lore of Life Mage did come back from routing, so I'm going to start bringing her over. And my opponent is eventually going to decide that he needs his dragon back in this fight here. And yep, now he's pulling back around there to rear charge these Ulthuan Sea Guard. Looks like, oh, nope, maybe queuing up for a breath attack. I'm not sure, I didn't see anything go off there, but anyway. The issue with the Sea Guard is he's going to have to, oh, there's the breath attack, and oh man, that did some nasty damage to those Phoenix Guard. That's one of the tools that the vampires rather do have with dealing with elite anti-large infantry, is to use that breath. That did a ton of damage there, but as I was saying, the issue with the Ulthuan Sea Guard is because I've got them kind of spread out like this. If he attacks one like he's doing now, I'll crossfire with these guys. If he attacks this one, I can crossfire with these guys. He really ought to break them up and target different units, but even then, I mean, they are anti-large, so it's not going to be a great trade for the Red Duke. You can see him getting the Flame Breath right back from the Prince, who got a regrowth, now an Earthblood cast on it as well, which also caught these Dragon Princes. And now we're going to bring him in for the killing blow. We popped the sword, I believe. Yep, Blade of Bel Caradris. He's going to finally finish off the Red Duke here, and that'll pretty much be the end of the vampire forces. They were already getting somewhat low on morale. The Terrorgheist fell as well, though I'm not 100% sure. Oh, it looks like he's right there as well. Probably fell to those Ulthuan Sea Guard, but it was a very fun battle. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that. Yeah, the vampires are in a tough place. You know, I don't think they've ever been in this rough of a position before in terms of like the tier list and kind of the metagame. They really get countered pretty badly by a lot of what the other factions can bring, and it's pretty rough for them. Granted, they still have a lot of really good tools. The Zombie Dragon and the Terrorgheist. The Terrorgheist is a bit better. I'm still not super sold on it. The Zombie Dragon's a lot better. It's, of course, as powerful as a lot of other dragons, but then again, Chaos has got dragons now too. You know, the High Elves, of course, and the Dark Elves also have dragons, so it's not... And the Wood Elves, of course, as well, so it's not like... you know, other people have access to it as well, so it's not unique to the vampire counts. But yeah, they're in a tougher spot. They're still very good, but in this battle we were able to outlast them. You can see 147 kills on these Phoenix Guard, 2 chevrons and 57 kills on this Phoenix Guard. The Dragon Prince is racking up a ton of kills and some chevrons as well, just munching on those Crypt Horrors early on. Just being able to take down those Crypt Horrors and the Mortis Engine was early on was a really decisive blow to my opponent. You really need to bring Blood Knights, I think, in this matchup, because they will beat Dragon Princes. And if you don't have a mobility advantage, my opponent didn't have really the mobility to contest my Dragon Princes. I mean, he could have used his dragons and his Terrorgeist, or his dragon and his Terrorgeist, but you know, then he wouldn't have had them in that mainline engagement. The Red Duke needs to be close so he can cast Invocation of Nehek to support the mainline fight and so on. So, you know, in that I had the mobility advantage here, I was able to kind of terrorize him in that way and take out a few units early on, kind of force that piecemeal engagement where it really favored me. This build is also very brutal, I think, for vampire counts to deal with. Their infantry is so poor. They really have a tough time with the elite tier, you know, elfin infantry, and I would imagine dwarfs are going to be tough for them now too. I haven't actually tried that matchup since Mortal Empires came out, but just based on what I've seen so far, the vampire counts may struggle there pretty badly. But yeah, it's interesting. Let me know what you guys think. Are the vampire counts any good, or are they pretty bad now? Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'm keeping it coming with more Mortal Empires content every single day, so stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time.